From the hardest hits to the biggest plays, this is Who Dey Weekly, your #1 Bengals fan podcast. Get in touch. Text or call 404-WHODAY7 or email us at whodayweekly@spnt.tv. Now, here's your host, Nick Suberly.
Hey, what's happening? Who Dey, everybody? Inside the Jungle, the reunion show is back. We're live here on YouTube for what should be a very fun occasion. Hey, guess what? The Bengals still have Marvin Lewis on the job. Never thought I would have said that when we did this reunion podcast. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about where we've been, what's been going on in our lives. It's going to be a good time. We're really looking forward to catching up with you. We will have a phone line open. We will open it up a little bit later on in the show, but we do want to hear from you. We've got a Twitter hashtag, ITJ Reunion. Make sure you tweet to us there. We've got the live chat. I'm really excited to have these guys back as well. Let's first and foremost welcome back my main man, Mickey Mentzer. Who Dey fans, what's going on, Mick?
Man, this is crazy. This is fun. I'm glad that Nick came out of his football European-style cave to come hang out with us for a little bit. He might not know everything that's going on with the Bengals, but he's gonna get it all his education tonight. I'm excited.
I'm going to learn a lot because it has, I'll be honest, my Bengaldom fandom took a little bit of a dip there after that last playoff loss to the Steelers, as a lot of fans, I think, also find themselves in that situation as well. But I'm glad to have you back, Mickey. Really looking forward to catching up like old times, pal.
It's exciting.
We've also got back Scotty B, Scott Bantel, fresh from his days on the battlefields at Gettysburg, it looks like, with that luscious beard there. Scotty, welcome back, buddy.
Older, wiser, more bearded, a few more kids running around the house. It's about what I got going on.
Well, what's been going on? I know you've been doing a little bit of podcasting, right?
Yeah, I've done a little bit on the side with some other places. Not much though. We added a third girl 2 months back, so pretty much been doing nothing but chasing kids around and wondering about when they'll take me and make me bankrupt.
3 girls. I don't know how you do it, man.
I'm doomed.
Poor guy. Well, glad to have you back. I'm glad to get a chance to catch up with you and talk some Bengals again. Last but not least, another guy who's pumped out a kid. Well, not him personally, but he has an addition to the family. It would be a little weird. AC, Anthony Cosenza on the show. AC, what's going on, buddy?
Nicholas, how are you? And I'm so glad to see you guys. Great to see your handsome faces, hear your beautiful voices. And I'm a little surprised we didn't have Thin Lizzy, the boys are back in town, blasting at the beginning of the show there. I thought that would have been appropriate, but great to see you guys. I know we've been interacting on Facebook and Twitter and things like that. So kind of commiserating about the last couple of seasons, I think, is unfortunately the crux of our communication. But I'm glad we're doing this, Nick. This is a really cool idea, and it's really good to hear that a lot of people were interested in this coming back and at least doing this show, and hopefully more in the future.
Yeah, well, hopefully. I will say this: the demand for the show, I especially over the last 4 or 5 months, I would say I've noticed a big uptick in people tweeting, saying how much they missed the show, how much they needed a place to vent. Should we start there? Should we start with the end of the 2017 season and the fact that I think all 4 of us are stunned that Marvin Lewis is back as head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals. That was, I'll be honest, that was kind of the driving force as to why I wanted to do the show again. I can't believe he's still on the job. Mick, I'll start with you. When you heard the news, you probably weren't surprised because it is, after all, the Bengals, but what did you make of that?
Shocked for a couple reasons, Nick. Like, I thought for sure it was going to be Marvin's decision to leave. We got word of that, a few games before the end of the season, and I thought it made sense, right? Maybe he'd had enough. One thing I'm always going to wonder about Marvin Lewis is how much control did he actually have from Mike Brown? Like, obviously, he's had more than any coach that Mike Brown has employed, but it will never like. Was there going to be a tell-all? That'd be awesome. Of like how much players were his versus what he was dictated. Who knows? So when the announcement came out, especially the way they delayed after the season, I was shocked that was the case. Yeah, I mean, I can't believe that he's back on the sideline.
It's funny that you say that, Mick, because back after the first season of what we called then Who Day Weekly, when the original host Andy Barch and I did the show, we had it pegged that Marvin was going to be done. That was going to be his last year. And as the days kept going and going and no announcement, I even said to him, I think he's going to be back. And the same thing happened here. So it's eerie how the parallels along this whole journey have been.
Happened after that season.
They went to the playoffs.
So, and he got a little more control. So, I mean, if we're a glass half full group, like I always am, everyone knows that. I hope that could be, something that we can, parlay into another playoff run here. There's talent, there's obviously some holes in this football team, but I do like, beyond Marvin being back, I do like a lot of what we've done with the other coaches on the staff. So, I know we'll get into that, but I want to get the other guys' takes on Marvin.
Yeah, I'll start with you, AC, because I know you're still, I think you're still doing stuff with CJ, right? What did you make of Marvin being back?
There's a lot there. I think we all saw the debacles against the what was it, the Bears and then the Vikings, and it looked like, there was a lot of injuries and things like that, but I think we all kind of conceded the fact, if you were watching those games or what have you, that this team looked like it quit. That Steelers game, I think, took a ton of wind out of their sails. Obviously, that was the turning point. Yet again, a game against the Steelers on primetime was the turning point of this season. If the Bengals had won that game, you would think that they would parlay that into a possible playoff berth even after the slow start. That game took a lot out of them, both emotionally and physically. And then the following 2 weeks, they got absolutely dominated. And I think everybody at that point was like, okay, you know what? Maybe every single top employee, whether it's a player or coach, needs to be either replaced or examined. And that included the quarterback, that included the head coach, and all of that. And then all of a sudden they rally and beat two teams at the end of the season that were headed to the playoffs or that were fighting for playoff spots. So Mike Brown came out and said that those two games essentially helped him make the decision that he wanted Marvin Lewis back, for better or for worse. I still think a change needed to be made. I like Marvin Lewis. I've always liked Marvin Lewis. I've met him in person. Great guy. He's done a lot of good things for the team. I just think the message has gotten stale. There's still the same issues of playing rookies and not playing rookies and favoring certain veterans. And, to me, you asked the question, are you surprised he's back? I think from what we saw with the Bears and the Vikings game, very much so. I'm surprised, but it being Mike Brown and the season ending the way it did, I'm not very surprised.
Yeah.
Mickey, I agree with the, maybe the coaching staff and Marvin maybe wrestling away some power from Mike Brown again this time around could point to a successful season coming up. Sure, but also what happened there is they made a quarterback change that their hand was forced there. And Andy Dalton's had some good games over these past two ho-hum seasons. He's had some bad games. A lot of talent in the draft coming up at the quarterback position. I don't think they'll make a move there, but we'll see. But overall, it's kind of, to me, the feeling of Marvin being back is kind of the feeling I've had for the past two seasons, and that's really just okay, blah.
Yeah, I mean that's a good way to sum it up, AC. I'm with you. Like, I know they had some turnover in the coaching staff. I couldn't have been more thrilled that Paul Alexander finally was gone, because for the life of him he couldn't develop a center. And still, how he got hired in the NFL is beyond me. But we'll save some of the coaching changes for a little bit later in the show. I want to get your thoughts, Scott, on Marvin being back.
I think, kind of like the other guy said, my reaction was it's shocking except it's not. It'd be shocking if it was any other organization. Being that it's the Bengals, it wasn't, just because we've seen it before. I mean, Mike Brown is just, he's completely against change. He doesn't like change. This is a franchise that held on to, was it Dave Shula? Who the hell do we have as our coach? Dave Shula, Mike Shula?
It was Dave
whatever,
Shula.
3 years. He was like 30 games under 500 or something like that. He just doesn't like to make change, and you've got the winningest coach in franchise history. So I just, like I said, I mean, I thought it was time for a change. I wanted a change. But to say I was shocked, that would be a lie. I mean, I'm not shocked that Mike Brown didn't make a change.
Do you think, and you guys, obviously, I'm still living north of the city. I'm not in Cincinnati, and obviously AC's on the West Coast, the best coast. But I'll ask you, Mickey and Scott, since you're there, the fact that he's back, do you think, how do you see the fan base reacting from possibly a ticket sales standpoint? Are you going to see Paul Brown Stadium filled next fall?
No, but I don't know that has much to do with Marvin. This team, this fan base follows the winning team. I think maybe if they would have gone out and made a big name hire, like, not that I would advocate for something like this, but like a Gruden or a Cowher, right? You might sell some more tickets, but I don't know that that's necessarily the right move for this team. I don't know. Like Anthony said, ho hum. Like, that's the collective view of the city. I think it was like, oh well.
I think Nick, I don't ever remember feeling such an apathy amongst the fan base. I liken it back to 2010, 2011, when they brought Marvin back, and we didn't think they would. And there was just that. I looked it up the other week, and I think they were the lowest attendance in the NFL that following year in 2011. And I actually feel like the fan base is more apathetic right now than they were that year. So I do think you're going to see an empty stadium. The only difference I think the coach would have made is, like Mickey said, if they would have made a exciting hire, or a coach that, brought maybe a more exciting offensive brand of football, I think they would have sold some more tickets at the beginning. And then, if they did well, kind of snowballed. With bringing Marvin back, I mean, this team could start out 10-0, and they're still not going to fill that stadium, because every fan is going to have the same outlook of same old Bengals. What they do in the regular season doesn't matter. So the way I look at it is, over the next 12 months, until they win a playoff game, that stadium is going to be pretty empty, because fans are just going to see it as the same old team, same old coach.
Yeah, I just want to throw out just a kind of a macro view, because, obviously Scott and Mickey and you as well, Nick, have kind of a better pulse on that area of the fans. Excuse me, because you live there. But there was some recent numbers put out, I believe it was by Fox News, about attendance, and the Bengals had their second lowest attendance in 2017, next to the lowest they had since 2002, excuse me, was in 2011, that year of big change, when a lot of people thought they were not going to be very good. So obviously people were apathetic last year. There's a lot of people that are threatening. We all know how Bengals fans can get. They're
Sure.
a little knee-jerk reactionist, and season ticket holders can say what they want, but there are people threatening to not attend games this year and what have you, and that's following up on a very low attendance rate from last year. And again, as Mickey said, there's a lot of factors to it. Obviously, the Bengals not being very good the past two seasons, and that wild card game from January of 2016 is a factor. The home viewing atmosphere is one thing. And then obviously, I don't want to bring politics into the show, but obviously there's some things people are a little bit upset at the NFL for some certain actions by players, and that plays into a role into not only the Bengals attendance, but other just overall attendance in the NFL. So, but it is something to note, I think, in terms of attendance.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the fan base reacts. Now, I think, and I'll throw this to you guys. I'm not 100% familiar with the defensive coordinator, the new defensive coordinator. I wasn't thrilled with the hire of Bill Lazor to begin with, and now they've kept him on. I wasn't thrilled by that. I will say this: I am excited at the prospects of the new offensive line coach coming from Dallas, who we know Dallas, that has been their thing. Their offensive line has been tremendous the last 2 or 3 years. How they let him get out of Dallas, I don't know, but I am kind of excited about that particular hire. Is there one of the new coordinators or anybody new on the coaching staff, Mickey, that really wowed you, that kind of actually made you feel, okay, I can get a little bit on board with Marvin being back?
I'm interested in, I mean, obviously, the line coach, huge, right? I mean, that is what Dallas showcases. I'm interested in the Alex Van Pelt hire. I think that, I mean, here comes our first controversy of the night, Nick. I'm still a Dalton guy. There are times where you see what he does and it's ridiculous, and there are times like the end of the season where he threads the needle on that 4th down play to win the game. I think that the Bengals' biggest downfall is not the quarterback. I think it's the line. And so I think if you have a quarterback's coach, and you can work on, and I think they got better throughout the year, getting that ball faster, work around the weaknesses of your line, I think you're good. So, yeah, those two are probably my favorite additions, although I don't hate any of the additions, really.
No. Yeah, I'd imagine we're going to have a somewhat spirited debate about Dalton, McCarron, or somebody else outside of the building at some point tonight. And I'd imagine a lot of the folks watching us live here in the YouTube chat are going to chime in as well. We will open up a phone line a little bit later on. I'll let you know what that number is here in just a minute. What about you, Scott? Anybody on that new staff that kind of got you excited as much as you could be?
Van Pelt hire, like Mickey said, I like. He worked with Rodgers up in Green Bay, so I don't think that's a bad thing to get a coach in that's worked around one of the best QBs in the league. I'll be honest, I don't know a ton about a lot of the coaches. This new defensive coordinator, Terrell Austin. I don't know much about him, but the thing that excites me is this is sacrilegious, I think, amongst Bengals fans to talk about this, but I'm not a fan of the Zimmer defense or the Gunther defense. I think Zimmer and Gunther were highly overrated. You look at the playoff losses, Zimmer never got much blame for those, and that was a defense that got run all over. I think they averaged giving up like 160 yards a game in playoffs under Zimmer running the ball. You simply can't win with that. I don't care who your quarterback is. And I saw the same thing from Gunther. The defenses would be ranked high, but whenever you needed them, they couldn't close the game. They couldn't get that final stop under Zimmer or Gunther. So I just didn't like Zimmer or Gunther's defense. So I'm excited to see what another defensive coordinator brings. I've heard him talk about doing more bump and run, which I think is good, especially with William Jackson. It's I don't know about Dre Kirkpatrick. The good thing is that Dre's allowed to touch and hold within 5 yards. So maybe
Dre's still on the team.
Maybe he gets less penalties because he can grab for 5 yards. But I'm excited to see what he does, because I think there's a lot of pieces on defense. I really like the new guys, Willis and Lawson, and William Jackson III. So I think that this defense might surprise some people next year.
Interesting. Yeah, I guess I forgot that Dre was still on this team. I just assumed he was hurt somewhere. That's how it always was.
Yeah, the refs don't forget he's still on the team.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. How about you, AC?
I mean, I don't want to repeat a lot of things, but I'm in agreement with both those guys. I guess for me, for Frank Pollock, the offensive line coach, what I'm interested in is to see how much sway he has in the draft room and to see how much sway he has in free agency, because obviously he has experience. He coached an outstanding line in Dallas, but Dallas also used a ton of draft capital on and high draft capital. Travis Frederick, first round pick. Tyron Smith, top 10 pick, I believe. Zach Martin, first round pick. So I would like to see him kind of say, we need to beef up this line, and especially if they are going to stick with Andy Dalton, which it looks like they're going to, he needs help up front. I mean, Andy's a pretty good quarterback, but we've seen him at his best when that line is strong. So I think aside from his expertise, I'm curious to see what kind of sway he has within the organization in terms of spending money, especially after losing Whitworth and Zeitler last year. And then for Terrell Austin, just to kind of piggyback a little bit off of what Scott said, I'm excited at possible varying of looks. The Bengals kind of play a four-man front with a lot of nickel as their base package, but they never really get out of a four-man front. They still – it's still kind of a traditional type of defense, whereas some of your better defenses are more complex defenses. Pittsburgh, New England, they kind of play a 3-4-ish hybrid, and they mix things up. And it sounds like Terrell Austin can take a lot of concepts from the Zimmer, Gunther type of defenses, but he also did a lot of 3-4 stuff with Detroit. And I think he's got a lot of good pieces to work with. Like Scott said, there's a lot of young guys in Lawson, Jackson. Obviously, Geno Atkins is still playing at a high level. So I think those two guys, and then Austin also, for those who don't know, he was actually pretty well regarded around the league, and there was some murmurs this offseason about him maybe getting some head coaching sniffs. Who knows? He could be a guy, especially if he does well in Cincinnati, that could be, another head coach in the Marvin Lewis tree. So it seems like he's got a pretty good reputation around the league, which I like.
Which means he'll get a win before Marvin does in the playoffs. I'm just kidding.
Yep.
I love that Scott rips on Zim, but he just went to the NFC Championship game. Marvin Lewis would dream about that.
Hold on now. He got people are going to call me a Marvin Lewis supporter now, but let's be honest. Zimmer got to the championship game due to what I would call the worst defensive play ever in the history of football. If he had Mickey back there at safety, Sean Payton and Drew Brees are going back to the championship game. I mean, it was the same thing. I mean, if not for that horrible play, we're talking about a team that collapsed in the fourth quarter with a 10-point lead, a defense that was known for being great that completely got run over. And, it'd be the same questions. I mean, he got saved by a miracle. Otherwise, we'd be talking about Marvin and his coaching tree being 0-25 in the playoffs.
Good point. All right. Fair enough. And you're right. Our resident cornerback would have made that play on that in that Saints Vikings game.
Make that tackle.
I don't know what that guy was doing.
That was a tackle. Just stand there and let him run around you.
Felt so bad for that guy.
He'll probably be a Bengal in a couple years. So.
Big free agency signing.
The only guy that loved that play was Raheem Moore, the safety from the Broncos. Took him off the hook for the worst safety play in the history of football.
Oh man. Well, look, who's to say? Who knows what's going to happen? I think, from the years doing the show, a lot of us, I don't know. I felt like we gave Marvin the benefit of the doubt because it was the Bengals. Like, you got to remember where we were when he came here, man. And it was so long ago that I don't know if that really plays anymore. Like, I think that cachet's kind of been, you've used up that bank of whatever you've stored up. I just hope that the coaching changes. I hope that Mike Brown or Katie Blackburn or whoever was in control said, okay, Marvin, here you go. And if that's the case, I think we all would agree that's actually probably good for the organization. I mean, when we've been told he's been given more control, those are years where they draft well and they perform well, right? I mean, or am I crazy?
I mean, and I think what we're feeling right now, Nick, is a draft you're familiar with, where we went back-to-back O-linemen that didn't pan out, right? Had they turned into the bookends of this line, we're probably celebrating, a different outcome. But
yeah,
I mean, that killed us. And then letting veterans go. I mean, we know how much Marvin loves his veterans. So do you think it was his call to let Witt go? I don't know. I mean, like I said, I'd love to read the tell-all because that doesn't seem like a Marvin Lewis move to me.
To me, Andrew Whitworth should never have played for another team besides the Bengals. I mean, just regardless. I mean, even if you overpaid for him. First of all, if you saw the Rams this year, he was one of the best offensive linemen in all of football. But, I mean, it's kind of like I don't know what you want to call it, but like a legacy type of contract. I mean, I think you just give him the money and let him play as long as he wants, as long as he's effective. That was my thought. I can see not wanting to pay $10, $11 million for a guard a year. I can kind of understand that, even though I liked Kevin Zeitler a lot. But to me, Andrew Whitworth was kind of the heart and soul of this team, and I think they lost a lot when they lost him.
Yeah, I vividly remember, and you will remember this too, Scott. The night we were at Lachey's after that pick, Nick Lachey walking by us, just shaking his head, so bummed. I mean, and who would have thought?
That I think we could probably go back to the tape on this one from that year, and I think most of us probably said, it was kind of an arrogant draft at the time, but we also were like, this could end up being a brilliant move because you may have just landed your two bookend tackles in the draft for the next 7-10 years. You got Smith and Whitworth getting up there in age. You let them go. Boom, you got your two left tackles. The problem is it looks like they've swung and missed on both of them. So now you're talking about a draft where they got absolutely nothing first and second round. And I agree with Anthony as far as the signing of Whitworth, but I can't really fault them. I mean, you drafted these guys to start. At some point in time, you got to see what they got. They let Whitworth go. They gave the young guys a shot. And unfortunately, it looks like these guys aren't going to be able to take the torch. But, at some point in time, they had to, let them jump out of the nest, see if they could fly. And they didn't really fly very well.
Yeah. And I think, too, obviously hindsight is 2020 when it comes to the draft. But, I mean, the fact that they took their first round draft pick was coming off of a major knee surgery. That's not the most confident thing in the world. And then he didn't even play the whole – and you want your first round draft pick to make an impact. Like, these are the guys that are supposed to make an impact on the field the next day they're – but for whatever reason, that one's going to set them back for a few years, unfortunately. And maybe this new offensive line coach is going to do better in the draft, and they're going to really emphasize that, because you're right. That all plays a part in the play of the quarterback. And if we say Andy Dalton needs help, guys, a lot of that comes – now, I'll be honest, I have not watched a lot of Bengals games the past 2 years. My guess is they weren't running the football very well either. And if you can't run the football, Andy Dalton has no chance.
I mean, in the beginning of this season, Andy Dalton was running for his life. And I would get into arguments with people, saying, oh, we need a new quarterback. I'm like, he's getting hit every play. And we loved, we loved our veteran running backs. And so it seemed to me, and now I think everyone agrees, we had a stud, that was barely getting on the field. And when he'd get on, he'd look awesome in the running game. We just wouldn't play him. It took an injury for him to take over. But yeah, I agree. And I think the line gelled a little more as the season went on. I think kind of take a step back. Like, I think what's crazy is as bad and as ho-hum as this team seemed to be, there were 2 games where we were dominating in the first half, made no adjustments and lost. Had we win those 2, this is a playoff team. And it's crazy. And I mean, they had the Packers on the ropes. They had the Steelers on the ropes. There were some ugly games, but you're going to have that. And I don't know. Like, I think that with if we improve the line, if we draft well, there's enough talent on this team that we could be right back in it. And so, yeah, I think it's unfair to fault the beginning of the season or to just, say, oh, it's Dalton, because there's too much other problems, right?
Yeah.
and I mean, I don't want to spend the whole time talking about the quarterback. I've done that a million times. The line was bad, really bad at the beginning of the season. We had the wrong running back in. We just were set up to fail.
Yeah, and I've seen you a lot the last few days, Scott, going at it with a lot of folks. So, we need to hold that thought because we have a special surprise in store for us tonight. Thank you, Sarah, my wife, lovely wife, Sarah, bringing me some tater tots. Oh man, I'm in my basement. Well, this isn't my mom's basement, but I am
feeling.
No, I'm gonna, for the sake of the audience and for not breaking YouTube, I'm gonna keep my shirt on. But
knew you.
I thought you were gonna pull the tater tots out of your cargo pants pocket.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, well, these are good. Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate it. Anyway, Scott, I love tater tots. Oh, they're very good.
My wife to make some tater tots.
I can't talk. My mouth is full of tater tots.
And Scott, so he reminded me as well about my Brandon Tate picture. I had to bust it out for this. I don't know if you guys can see that. Well, the guys on the Hangout can't see it, but you watching on YouTube can see the autographed picture of Brandon Tate here in the background as well. So, Scott, let's talk about the you've been defending. I feel like maybe I'm reading the tweets wrong. You only have, what is it, 280 characters now? But I feel like the last few days I've seen you on Twitter defending the quarterback.
I think I've fallen into Mickey's camp of being labeled a Dalton lover, and it's as I've long said, it's not as much a Dalton love fest as much as it is of what I go back to with every fan. You can bitch and moan about Dalton as much as you want, but here comes the question is, who are you replacing him with that's better? You know, it's so easy to say, I hate Dalton. He can't do this. He can't do that. The fact of the matter is the guy went to the playoffs his first 5 years. That's most quarterbacks don't do that. You know, from a touchdown interception ratio, completion percentage. I mean, he's an above average quarterback. Everyone is looking for above. You can't replace above average quarterbacks that easy. I mean, I'm okay with making an upgrade at the quarterback. I don't have anything where we need to stay with Dalton. I'm fine with him. I think you can win, but you know, I think I was on the record back in 2014 saying I'd be okay with going after Bridgewater if they wanted. I was okay last year with Watson if they wanted to take a stab at that. In fact, I'd love Baker Mayfield this year. That being said, none of those guys are guaranteed to be better than Dalton. You know, hindsight's great, but you know, I have been going back and forth a bunch, and you know, a lot of people, you know, want to bash Dalton, but the fact of the matter is the guy does win. That's got to count for something. You know, he's not the most talented guy in the league. He doesn't have the strongest arm. He can't make all of the throws. But at the end of the day, I would argue that every one of Dalton's teams has overperformed where they were expected to be. And you look at teams past, like, you know, Carson Palmer, for example, I would argue that every one of his teams actually underperformed where people think they would be. So, you know, it's very easy to pound Andy Dalton, but to find someone, look, I mean, Aaron Rodgers isn't becoming a free agent. You can't just go out there and get yeah, I'd love Aaron Rodgers, but you can't just go out and find these guys. So, and they haven't been in a position to draft a guy that high either. So I don't know who people want to replace Dalton with.
There's a lot there to dissect. I guess my offseason stance for me is the Bengals need to pick a route to take with the quarterback and go with it. And if it's going to be Dalton, awesome. But this team has done him no favors the past couple of off seasons because of the free agency attrition they let walk out the door. What was Dalton's best year? 2015. Yes, he got hurt, but Tyler Eifert, Marvin Jones, Mohamed Sanu, AJ Green, Kevin Zeitler, Andrew Whitworth, all of these guys that were he was surrounded with a bunch of talent, and it paid off. And he is a guy that is shown, yes, at times he's an above average to dang good quarterback, but he needs help around him. And the Bengals did not do him any favors the past couple of off seasons. So if he's going to be the guy this year, you got to restock the offensive line. You have to get him maybe a couple weapons on the outside, figure out what you can do with Tyler Eifert. Or is this a year where maybe Andy Dalton is a bridge type of guy where they draft one of these young guys this year? This draft class is stacked with probably 5 first-round talents in the draft. Everybody has their favorite guy. I've got a couple of guys I like over others, but each guy I think still needs to develop in order to be a quality signal caller in the NFL. So I just think this team needs to pick a route and really commit to it when it comes to the quarterback. If it's Dalton, restock the offensive side of the ball and don't be afraid to play guys like John Ross and Josh Malone. Get the offensive line in shape. If it's not him, pick a new guy and come up with a scheme and other things like that to suit his strengths.
Well said, AC. Actually, all three of you said it very well. Should we go to the phone? Should we open up the phones and go to some fans of Inside the Jungle? Let's go to area code 305. You're live here on I almost said my other show, Inside the Jungle. Who is this?
Fado content.
Hey,
day, gentlemen.
What's up, Fado? How you doing, buddy?
Oh man, I'm doing well, man. Doing real spectacular tonight, man. Hearing from you guys, man. This is a throwback right here. I love it.
Well, we're glad you called in. What's on your mind?
Oh man, first and foremost, this is. I think we're making the playoffs now, man. Now that we had to show the playoffs are a foregone conclusion, man.
All because of tonight.
But, what's on my I think what's on my mind is, man, there's too much. It's been months, so I can't really go on and blabber about it. But pretty much just, I just hope this team gets in the right direction. It seems they're trying to do it. The Marvin Lewis thing it is what it is. But I think we have the young talent going, and I'll just say something to Scotty B. I think he's right about Dalton in terms of, he's an above-average quarterback, but I think we need to do better than that because I can't give him that pass because, like I put in the chat, you had Case Keenum, Nick Foles, and Blake Bortles in the conference championship games. There's really no excuse for Dalton at this point. I know the team isn't constructed right, and he can't help from Marvin Lewis, but at the end of the day, I think he needs to take a portion of the blame as well. He's too inconsistent for me.
Scott, you want to respond to that?
Well, no, that's a great question. Like you say, we can't ask for a remedy without having something drawn up for it. But I mean, when I see Case Keenum, Nick Foles, and these guys, I mean, if I see that, all we have to do is just build the talent. You're right. You have to find something better before you move on. But I mean, if it's me, I take a chance on a Teddy Bridgewater or something, and at least get some competition going in there, so he's not the set starter, and we have no other choice.
Fair enough, Fatal.
I'd be okay. I don't mind them bringing in competition and trying. I mean, I did like Bridgewater coming out of college. Said I'd be okay with him drafting him. We got to remember Teddy Bridgewater's lucky to still be in the NFL. I mean, we're talking about a guy that it was close to having his leg amputated. He hasn't played football in 2 years now. Even when he did play, many people forget he wasn't. I think he had like 16 touchdowns to 14 interceptions in his one year. So it's not like Teddy Bridgewater was lighting the world on fire. So I don't know that he's the answer. If they want to try to bring him in, that's fine. But I wouldn't say that he's necessarily going to be better than Dalton.
All right, Fado, it's been a while. So what have you been up to?
Oh man, same old stuff, man. Just following the Bengals and living in misery, and just living this Miami lifestyle.
I was say,
on this Miami Heat is doing really well.
Life on South Beach treating you well?
Oh man, always. I wish I was on South Beach right now.
So do we. It's freezing in Ohio.
Yeah, I could imagine. But hey, man, like I said, I'm gonna let you guys go, man. It's been great seeing you guys, man. Anthony, got to be. Oh, Mickey, you know you're awesome, man, with the Chuck Norris beards going on tonight. And Nick, man, we missed you, man. Hopefully we can see this once in a blue moon at least.
We'll do our best, Fatal. Appreciate the call, buddy.
All right, man. Who freaking day, man?
Who freaking day is right. That's Fatal Content giving us a ring here on the program. Let's go. We've got another caller here in the queue. Let's go to area code 513. You're live here on Inside the Jungle. Hi, who's this?
Hey, this is Mike Hudson Sucks.
Hey, what's going on, Mike?
Not a whole lot, man.
I got to ask, are you jealous of my tater tots?
You know it. I got some in the freezer. I'm going to fry them up, I'm going to put them in the oven right after the show.
Nice.
Hell, I might do it now.
So what's on your mind?
So I am going to fast forward to August.
Okay.
And so I'm in a bunch of different football groups, and one of them, you know, they've already started asking, what is your what do the Bengals have to do? What does your team have to do in order to consider next year a success? And for me, I don't aim for much. We got to beat the Steelers at least once. What do you guys think?
Mickey, what do you think?
I mean, you know, like the Bengals have obviously the last two seasons haven't been great, but even when we were going to the playoffs, we were like the Buckeyes under John Cooper, where they'd have great seasons, but they couldn't beat the Wolverines, and that's all that mattered. And so, I mean, a sweep of the Steelers would be incredible. Winning the division is solid. The division's down now, but yeah, I agree. I think that makes success, and I think you do that, you know, early in the season, and you start seeing people trickle back.
What about you, AC? You want to chime in on what is success for the Bengals fast forwarding to next year?
I mean, obviously, getting a win, if not 2 wins against the Steelers, for me is you know, it's always huge. I mean, and usually getting a win or 2 wins against the Steelers is the path to winning the AFC North and getting into the playoffs again. For me, that's one of many steps, and I just would like to see a lot of. We've talked a little bit about Marvin coming back and power being his way. I'd like to see some of these organizational changes happen. I'd like to see more in free agency. I'd like to see more aggression in the draft, rebuild this roster, and you know, kind of reinstill a passion both into this roster and into the fan base. And I think that if you kind of do that throughout the offseason and the summer and training camp, I think that's going to give you a better product on the field. And I think that's what's been missing since this team has not recovered from that wild card loss, in my opinion. I do not think mentally, emotionally, physically, whatever you want to call it, they have not recovered. And you've seen it in some lackadaisical play. You've seen it in the record. And to me, I think these last 2 seasons, if anything,
penalty.
Yep. And you need to do things differently. Now, that doesn't mean wholesale changes necessarily, but I think once they do some of these things in the offseason differently, it's going to lead to better product on the field. And that's what I would call a success, because Mike Brown needs to learn again to get out of his own way with this franchise and let football people do football things and make football decisions. And I think then you'll see a better product on the field, and that's what I would consider a successful season.
So, Mike, what have you been up to, man?
Not a whole lot. I found this other sport. Have you guys heard of soccer? I've been mondo into soccer. So, like, I quit drinking in 2014, and I immediately found a new way to waste my money. So I go to a lot of soccer games.
Well, that's you know, you and I, we have hung out a couple times at FC Cincinnati games in the past couple of years.
Those were good times. The results on the field, I think one of them was Charleston. The others, you know, not great on the field, but those were good times because I was hanging with you.
Well, you're the man, buddy. We appreciate you. I appreciate you being a fan of both of our podcasts, man.
All right. Hey, you guys keep rocking. Keep in touch. Rock on, brothers.
That's Mike Hudson Sucks giving us a ring here on Inside the Jungle. Appreciate it, Mike.
Appreciate it. Bye.
That's Good stuff. We've got the lines open. If you're watching us live on Facebook, 513-399-5425 is the number. If you want to have your say here on this reunion night of Inside the Jungle. I couldn't remember if we had audio for this or not. But do you guys remember the Brandon Tate countdown to kickoff? I had the little counter. I was trying to figure out a way I could bring that back, but I can't laugh at Brandon Tate because he made the dang playoffs.
You still have any of our intros that you did?
Let's see. Well, it wouldn't be Inside the Jungle without this.
Shout outs.
So why don't we do that? Why don't we do some shout outs, shall we? Putting you on the spot. So, Kurt wants to know that, okay, I just did a minute ago, but I'll retype it here. 513-399-5425. There you go. Now if you want to call in. So, Scott, I'll start with you. Who do you want to shout out? Oh.
It's back from the dead. I mean, the people, the fans, the Bengals Nation has been clamoring for this for the last 2 years. I don't know as much about for us as much as you on video without a shirt on, but we'll take it any way we can get it.
Yeah, unfortunately, Mickey, we're not anywhere near the 100 listener mark that you requested for the shirt to come off, but there is still time. Well, I appreciate the shout out, Scotty. I wasn't intending for that, but thank you. How about you, AC? You got a shout out?
Aside from all of the folks who interacted with us on Twitter, and there has been a bunch since you made this announcement, Nick, and definitely shout out to you for doing this, because I've been looking forward to doing this, and hopefully we make this a little more frequent. I'd like for us, yeah. There's Tim H and others on Twitter, but it was great hearing from Mike Hudson and Fatal Content, of course. And I want to give a shout out to, I don't know if it's Stofers or whoever, Nick, but whoever is the makers of your tater tots of choice deserve a shout out for that golden, salty, delicious goodness that you were enjoying right now.
You can't
Show
go
sponsor.
wrong. You can't go wrong with Ida.
That was the one. All right.
So yes, that is, and I've got to give a shout out to my wife for making them. I said to her at about 8:45, I was like, "Can you do me a favor? Can you bring some tater tots down in the middle of the show? You can't cook them yet, but you got to bring them down so they're warm for me." And she did it. That was very nice of her. Good shout out there, Izzy.
Mike Hudson in the chat says oven preheating. So he's a man of his word. He's heating some up for himself.
That's great. Caleb Sheridan is live in the chat room. He says, "Hey guys, I'm the guy who currently has the original Inside the Jungle banner." What's up, Caleb? How's it going? Thanks for watching tonight. Yeah, I sent Caleb my Inside the Jungle banner. I think I sent him a couple Inside the Jungle shirts, which I still have. I probably have like 30 Inside the Jungle shirts on my shelf over here. And then I sent him every Bengals jersey I have. I just sent it all. I was like, after that loss to the Steelers, I was like, oh, I can't take it anymore. So thank you, Caleb, for watching. Mickey, I know I put you on the spot a minute ago, so you got a shout out?
So I agree with the shout out to Subs. This is cool, but I'm going to shout out another member of our cast, AC. I mean, from all of us, when that happened, he's the only one that stayed the course, right? He continued to crank out his content. He still does his podcast. It's nice, and it's like a little slice of home when I see him pop up on Facebook or whatever doing his thing. I like it.
Tell us about your show, AC.
It's the second best Bengals podcast I've ever been on, behind this program, of course. Definitely not the same without having you guys regularly on, but just trying to carry a little bit of a baton with the show. I know I wasn't going to do one, but this show kind of ended its run, and just kind of picked something up and ran with it, and trying to have some fun with it. So it's sort of a weekly show, but yeah, it's called the Orange and Black Insider, and definitely not the same without you guys, but it's fun.
Now, can you find that show on Cincy Jungle?
on YouTube. It's
cool.
iTunes, SoundCloud. Yeah,
Very cool.
It's around.
And I know, I think, Mickey, didn't you restart Who Dey Fans?
I'll start, I think.
Oh.
I don't know.
Much like a Bengal offensive lineman.
Mickey, I got this great article in my head that has been bouncing around for like the last 2 months. I just haven't found time to finish it.
These things take time to cook. I know.
Like my tater tots.
It's not weak game recapping stuff. I mean,
It's quality, not quantity.
Yeah, it's tons of quality.
Oh, you guys are hilarious. I'm going to give a shout out to, again, I can't remember all of you because it was quite a bit, but everybody who tweeted me, I don't know, I would say throughout this season about missing the show and wanting it to come back. And it's been crazy. I mean, I'll be completely honest. That last loss against the Steelers really, really, really took the wind out of my sail. My son it's crazy. Ben, he adores the NFL. Like, all he does is has the NFL Network on. All he does is play Madden. All he does is just NFL all the damn time. But he won't watch a game, like, ever. I was like, the championship games are on this weekend. You make zero sense to me, kid. But yeah, he's still a Bengals fan, so he'll carry that flag here in our family. I'm still a Bengals fan, obviously, but I just the time, and I just don't know how much more my heart can take. But that was, and it's just the way they lost, just the stupid, like. That's what drives me crazy, and I guess it brings us back to the Marvin thing again. Is this team like? It was a staple. Like, they are the most ill-disciplined team ever. Like, at the worst possible times to have penalties, to have mistakes. Like, I don't know, Mickey, you want to chime in? You're raising your hand.
I agree. That was tough, and I think this is very therapeutic for you, Nick.
Yes,
but. The most ill-disciplined team ever. So when the Bengals played the Steelers this year, they lost a guy, probably forever, because he tackles like an idiot.
Yeah.
Then they had another guy stand over Perfect and do something stupid, then be real apologetic and talk about how he's not that person. And then as soon as he's back in a game, he mimics it in an end zone celebration.
Yeah.
So I don't think they're the least disciplined team. I think we had a couple of unfortunate events. And I mean, the farther I get from that playoff game, I still agree with if Perfect doesn't make that hit, which I don't think is as bad as it's been painted out, right? Because it's Perfect, it's worse. But you see that same hit every week in the NFL, right? A guy comes across, his shoulder hits the head, like it's bad, right? If Perfect doesn't make that hit, he's the player of the game. Then you got a Steelers coach. 2 times in that game, Steelers coaches make contact with Bengals players.
Yeah.
They're on the field jawing. Like, where's the discipline there? Like, I get it. I totally get. Like, we never get the benefit of the doubt, but I wouldn't say we're the least disciplined team. We just don't get a break.
Let's not forget, they were celebrating at midfield after they thought they scored a touchdown on the Shazier hit that knocked Gio Bernard out. They were celebrating at midfield while he's laying unconscious. That was going on. They had a player who threatened to shoot Vontez Perfect on Twitter. They had a coach who stepped in the middle of a play. I mean,
and even past that, look at this season where they talk about playing the Patriots when they haven't even played the Jaguars yet. I mean, multiple players did. Like, their discipline is crap. I mean, and honestly, I thought there was a chance that Tomlin was going to get the axe because of that stupid crap, but he didn't, and it's the same crap. So, I'm not trying to justify one by the other. I think the Bengals definitely can clean up their act, but it's not like we're the only team. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if we're trying to model ourselves after the Steelers, because everyone wants to be the Steelers, the most, Super Bowl victories, all that stuff, what are you modeling after? The same crap, right? They just can't handle it when it's dished back at them.
Yeah, imagine if we had guys live Facebook streaming the coaches talk in the locker room, or tweeting out issues with their contract before the divisional playoff game and then losing. I mean, it's a narrative. The media kind of paints a narrative. They paint the narrative that the Steelers are the classy organization. The Bengals are not. It boils down to when they win, people overlook what they do. Being that the Bengals don't win, I think it gets focused on more.
Well, why do they win and the Bengals do not? Why do the Bengals always fall to the Steelers, and why is it a lot of times on the big stages where they trip over their own feet? That's what I don't understand. And there's a lot. All of the examples that you guys gave, the coach Munchak or whoever it was pulling Reggie Nelson's hair, Joey Porter getting in Adam Jones's face, making contact there in that game. There's the Juju Smith-Schuster thing you referenced. So yes, they've got some penalties, and some have just kind of been glossed over. But I guess, is there just that big of an organizational difference, or a coaching difference, or a quarterback difference, a roster difference between the two teams? Because Marvin Lewis is 8-24 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. That is absolutely unacceptable.
It's a mental hurdle. It's no different than look at the Steelers against the Patriots. The Steelers are brutal against the Patriots. They're the ones that melt down. It's a mental hurdle. They have a mental edge over the Bengals, just like the Patriots have it over the Steelers. I mean, talk to Steelers fans about the issues against the Patriots. It's the same stuff.
So how do you get that's?
I agree, and it's all mental. And I wasn't saying those things about that it's unfair for the Bengals, right? Like, you make your bed,
right?
Mine was more in response to the discipline, right? The lack of discipline.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a mental thing. We had the Steelers crush this season. I mean, at halftime, they weren't even in the game. And then we don't adjust, and we play not to lose. Like in high school, I just remember.
By the way, that was the one game I watched this year.
My coaches always used to say, if you play not to lose, you're not going to win. I mean, the Buckeyes used to do the same thing, and they still kind of do it, right? We don't have that put your foot on the throat. And the rare times we have, I mean, the last time I really, really remember the Bengals having that was Palmer, the year that he blew out his knee. I remember, there'd be a turnover. We knew Palmer's going deep the next play. Like, as soon as we got the ball, we're going to put the dagger in. And it was awesome, right? And then, sure, it had to be the Steelers, that a fluke thing, bust Palmer's knee. I don't hold to that as being something purpose. That was terrible. But we just can't get past that mental. And honestly, winning a playoff game, sweeping the Steelers, those are the things that are going to solve that. Put them in your rear view and worry about the next thing. But we're just not there yet as a team. And that's the most frustrating part.
Wow, we got a little spirited there. I liked it. Kind of got those juices going again. Man. I just hope for the sake of Marvin Lewis, because a lot has been made about his ability in the playoffs. A lot has been made about what he's done with his organization. Yes, I feel like he's the winningest coach of all time in the club's history. Like that should be celebrated. And I don't feel like, maybe credit's not the right word, but don't we all kind of scoff at that? Like, that's because you've been here for forever. Kind of, you know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like he gets the credit he probably ends up deserving. You know what I mean?
Some of that, it has to do with the way that he's so arrogant to the fans and the media. I don't think, he's necessarily endeared himself. I remember back when he was hired. I mean, in Marvin we trust. I mean, that guy could do no wrong in this city. But over the years, he's made multiple comments, regarding fans that have been arrogant, to say the least. He treats the media like crap. So he doesn't exactly get the benefit of the doubt. But you do have to look at, I don't want to sound like a Marvin apologist here, but you do have to look at it, how does a legacy change? I mean, if what was that, the second offensive play in the game that Palmer and Chris Henry go down on that play, in my opinion, they win that game if Palmer and Henry stay healthy. If the Steelers went on to win the Super Bowl that year, I think the Bengals would probably at least gone to the Super Bowl. How does his legacy change if they win that year? How does it change if Andy Dalton doesn't get hurt in 2015? Because I do think they win in the playoffs that year as well.
But they had that game won even with AJ McCarron.
I mean, but is that on Marvin or is that on Jeremy Hill not holding on to the football? I mean, everyone likes to blame Burfict and Adam Jones for that one, but it ultimately comes down to Jeremy Hill's job is to get on the ground with the football.
Yeah, 100% agree with you there.
Over and somehow Hill has managed to escape most scrutiny regarding that game. It's been put on Burfict and Jones. People said, "Oh, they should just kick the field goal at that point in time." People would have laughed if they kicked the field goal in that rain and missed it. The right decision was to run it. Jeremy Hill just has to make sure he doesn't fumble it, and he didn't.
I mean, I agree, and like maybe I have a different. I mean, I don't know. I can't understand why a Cincinnati fan wouldn't have good feelings and a soft spot for Marvin Lewis. He changed the culture here. He maybe never took him over the hump, but he definitely took a team that was used to 3-13, 4-12, and took them to the playoffs a ton. Yeah, do you want to win those games? Yes, absolutely. And maybe he's not the coach that takes us to the next step. And that's really what we're discussing right now, right? But I don't know. If you don't have a soft spot for Marvin Lewis, then you have unreal expectations. He changed the culture. We just need to take the next step. Now it's time to stop going to the playoffs and win some playoff games.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think everybody can sit here and say, thanks a lot, Marvin. Seriously. I mean, thanks. You've done a lot. But to me, there's not a clutch gene in this team under his watch. There are too many issues on prime time in the big stages. And when this team either gets a lead or is beating it, they can't seem to handle success in these big moments. And that wild card thing is to me, Jeremy Hill, all he needs to do is just literally take a handoff and just fall down. I mean, and curl over the ball. Yet inexplicably, he cannot hang on to the football. And then things unravel from there. And same thing with the games that I think Mickey mentioned earlier, the Green Bay game this year and the Steelers game, which are complete season changers if the Bengals win those games. They're up big at halftime, and they can't handle the success of beating Ben Roethlisberger and beating Aaron Rodgers on Aaron Rodgers' home turf by big margins, and they crawl into a shell. So I like Marvin. I think he's done a lot of good things, but there are a lot of warts to his resume, I guess, as well. And I don't know that continuing to re-sign him and hope that he gets more power in certain aspects within the organization is going to make them more clutch, going to get them to be better on prime time and get them to stop making these dumb mistakes when they have big games seemingly wrapped up.
Yeah, and here's the other thing I don't get with the Bengals fan base, and maybe you guys can chime in on this, is I've never seen a fan base before that there's a fraction of this fan base, and I would say it's a decent size, but it's very vocal, that would rather the team lose so that they can be right. They would rather the team lose so they can say they were right and Marvin Lewis sucks, or they would rather the team lose so they can say they were right and Andy Dalton sucks. There's a fraction, like I said, a sizable fraction that call themselves Bengals fans, but root for the team to lose so they can be right. I don't get it.
I think, though, we know what it takes to take that next step. The Bengals just don't do it. And I think that, give me a second here. So when Carson Palmer quit on this team, what happened? We drafted.
We drafted Dalton, and we had success. Wasn't that the year of AJ Green?
AJ Green.
So you have two guys that are thrust in, right? the Bengals typically don't start their rookies. I mean, look at John Ross. So you have these guys that are guys that are drafted out of college are used to winning, right? They've been the stars their whole life. Their college teams probably did well. Your quarterback and your best weapon are like, hey, we're going to win. And look what happens. I remember the pundits picked us to not win a game that first season, and we go to the playoffs. Since then, though, we've slowly gotten back into we're drafting these studs, these Rosses and these Mixons, and they don't see the field because we favor our veterans. Like we instill the losing piece, the non-clutch piece into these players that may have come into the league clutch. And then we continue that, and it's like, first you need to learn how to lose in big games before we're going to play you.
Could that be the franchise motto? We instill the non-clutch.
I think it's happening. I mean, look at what Mixon did this season. Imagine he ran the whole season. I mean, it's crazy. So I don't know. I think we need youth, and I hope if that's the control that we get, right, I don't have to play these players. Like, I'm going to put the best, 22 on the field. Maybe that's what it is. I mean, I don't know.
I think that's where a valid criticism of Marvin really comes in is his distaste for playing younger, unproven players. I mean, we've seen it time and time again of where he, doesn't want to play the young guy over the veteran. I mean, he was forced to play Burfict. That turned out well. But you look at the guys this year, like the guards, Redmond and Westerman. I mean, those guys didn't see the field. We were told because they weren't ready. Hell, when they came in, that offensive line looked pretty damn good, which makes me question is why the hell didn't we see them earlier in the year?
Maybe that's a Paul Alexander thing, and that's why he's not here.
Well, and I think Marvin may have hinted to that in his, after the season as well. But, yeah, I mean, I think that's a valid criticism of Marvin. I think he's always, to a fault, preferred the veterans over the young guys.
Yeah. We've got some folks who want to chime in, believe it or not. We've got a caller here. Let's go to area code 828. Hi, who's this?
Hey, it's Kurt from Asheville.
It's Airport Kurt. What's going on, buddy?
Not much, just hanging out, doing grades. Thought it was a perfect night to listen to an old podcast, so here I am chilling on the couch.
So you said you're doing grades? Still teaching, I see, huh?
Still teaching, yeah. Got my first semester grades due tomorrow, so it was great. I was able to just plop in front of the TV, knock those out of the park while listening to you guys.
So you're not at the airport still, are you?
I'm not at the airport anymore. No, I stopped working there like right shortly before you ended the show.
Gotcha.
Just wanted to spend more time at home hanging out.
Nice. I think what you should do, I don't know if you're still giving out any grades, but make sure you just give everybody an A. That way you can just focus on the show tonight. Sound like a plan, Kurt?
Well, I already finished them all. I literally just finished, and then I called in. I was like, once I finish my grades, I'll call in.
All right, good. So, all right. So what's on your mind, man?
So, I mean, Scott kind of stole my thunder, like along the lines of playing the veterans. I mean, it seems like they're dedicated to playing the players that they feel should be like next in line. They went and they spent a first and second round pick on Fisher and Abuehi, and once we lost, Whitworth and Smith, it was like, well, we just have to play these guys, and it wasn't working. Like, and why they didn't see the foresight to go, well, these guys aren't working. Let's put Redmond and Christensen in, or Weston Christensen, and like finally the last 2 weeks we had like our best running games of the whole year, and it's uncanny that he doesn't give those guys a chance.
Yeah, I don't get it either. I think we saw it too. Didn't we see that with Denard? He didn't get a chance right away. He was a first-round draft. I think he's done it with almost every cornerback he's ever drafted. I think I can only remember.
That's true. I mean, Dre sat his whole first year. Jackson sat his whole first year. So did, I'm pretty sure Denard did as well. If he didn't sit his first year, he barely started or barely had any playing time.
I know the only one I think that started. Yeah, Dunlap. I think Leon Hall started. Yeah. I think Leon Hall did, but I could be wrong about that. Or maybe he was a nickel and they were waiting for who was it? Was it? Well, I think then Jonathan Joseph left. So
Yeah. When we think about it, the only
Sure, what he was learning,
like
but
the only
How to fumble,
only first rounders that have started straight out of the gate, like in the last, I don't know, like 6-7 years I can think of, are Dalton and Green.
yeah, I was gonna say those were out of necessity.
Yeah, they had to.
And you could say the same thing too. Back when, well, I mean, his first draft pick sat of the year too. His very first draft pick as the Bengals head coach sat for a whole year.
Carson Palmer's out of here. He's just like, I'm sorry, we're gonna take you with our first and second round draft pick, but you don't get to play.
I think we would all agree that was probably for the best. Could you imagine if Palmer had started right away? That might have been.
In fairness, Odell Thurman and David Pollock both played a lot as rookies, but that did not turn out well for either guy.
Oh,
but I mean, they played other Heisman-like players first year out, and they've been successful. Or maybe not Heisman, like Andrew Luck, like they played him first year and he played really well when he came out of the draft.
How about that David Klingler? On that note,
or Johnny Manziel, man, he was great coming out of college.
No, I certainly missed the money signs. Anyway, well, Kurt, we appreciate you calling, buddy, and I'm glad that you're doing well down in North Carolina. And who knows, maybe we'll hear from you again if we do another one of these bad boys.
You just let me know, I'll be there.
All right, Kurt, appreciate it, buddy.
Night, guys.
I know it's what I hear. No, oh.
No, they're clones of each other.
You're just saying that because he's a little feisty white guy.
That's the same football game.
He's also saying that because Baker Mayfield beat the Buckeyes this year.
Mayfield College. I just don't think it translates.
Yeah, I think he might be a little too small, personally.
Friendly gentleman's bet on the success of Baker Mayfield.
Done. Let's do it.
I don't know what the bet is, but whatever.
I
don't know how we measure success, but
let the chat room decide.
Well, speaking of chat, I believe we might actually have Fatal content back on the show. Fatal, is that you?
Yes, sir.
What's up?
I returned for round two, man.
Got a double dip.
I have to do the Scotty, man. I think Baker's gonna be good, but I'll make this point, man. I don't know if you guys will agree. I think the parallels between the Rams and the Bengals could have been similar, because if you just change something up at the top, because if you remember them with Fisher, they looked as terrible as you can look.
Yeah.
And as soon as they added McVay, basically the same roster. I mean, I know they added Whitworth. They shored up the O-line. They traded for Watkins. They got him a couple more weapons, but it's no different than what the Bengals did with Ross. With adding Malone, with of course Tyler Eifert got hurt. But all I'm saying is a change at the top can make a humongous difference. You know, if you look at McVay and the Rams under him, man, they just look completely night and day with the same roster. So I think the Bengals have some crazy talent, and that's what makes it even more frustrating when you have this talent and you're like, what? It's just you watch the games and the Bengals to me are clutch, because you're watching the game and you're like, what? The mistake they were going to make is coming. It's coming at the worst time too, and it's clutch. They're clutch when it comes to the worst moment.
Yeah.
When you're ready, when you're expecting the mistake to come, they always pull through. They always pull through.
AC, did you want to chime in?
I mean, I can see where Fatal's coming from with that, but it's not just Whitworth that the Rams added. They added Robert Woods. They traded for Sammy Watkins. This is a team that made significant moves in the offseason, in free agency, and during the season. And that's what they did is they committed to Jared Goff, a guy who struggled in his rookie year playing minimal games. And they knew that Jared Goff, even though he's the first overall pick, has some limitations and needs help around him. They got Andrew Whitworth. They shored up the offensive line. Obviously, Todd Gurley is now a different player because of what they did at the offensive line. That helped Jared Goff out. Then they got him a plethora of wide receivers who helped him out big time, and then they did some good things in the draft too. So I'm kind of the bigger free agency guy than the rest of the guys on this show, but that's a team that made a new coach. They made moves. They made outside moves, and it paid off for them. That's something that the Bengals have not done.
Yeah.
They've focused inwardly, and they didn't even do that well the past couple of years because they've lost a lot of key guys. So if the Bengals are to make a jump like the Rams, they're going to need to get creative. They're going to need to be more aggressive than they've been the past couple of years. Otherwise, I think we're still going to see this 6, 7, maybe 8 win type of team that relies on the draft and just kind of sits and takes the best player available. To kind of harken back to what you guys were talking about with some of the draft picks and all of that, and Lewis's penchant for not playing rookies, it's kind of a weird thing. The team doesn't do anything notable really in outside free agency for veterans, yet they play veterans on their team and they rely on the draft. It's kind of a weird, there's this veteran preference, but they don't go out and get a lot of outside veterans. To me, it's very odd how they do some of their things. But I think, to Fatal's point, if they're going to be like the Rams, I think they need to be more aggressive in free agency and possibly trades like the Rams were this last offseason.
Well, Fatal, I appreciate you calling back in, buddy.
No problem, man. You guys have a good one, man.
You too. Fatal double dipping. I mean, hey, we're only around here once every 2 years at this point, so you got to get your points in. And appreciate that. Yeah, Mickey brought up a good point in the chat room about some of our old clips. If I thought about it, I would have got those the Dave Lapham clip and Ken Brew. That would have been maybe I'll save it for the next one, Mick. But
do a specific video.
Why am I?
It involves two women and a.
Oh, that was Tim.
Oh, okay. It was Tim. I thought it was Mickey.
Tim Bates. Oh, I love you, Timmy. Timmy. Oh, that was so funny. Oh my goodness. Oh, I'm glad you reminded me of that, AC. I smashed this plate of tater tots. I ate way too many of them. But I will say this. It's been a lot of fun doing this show. But it wouldn't be an episode of Inside the Jungle without a little.
Hey, ladies, quit your babbling, because now's the time in the show when all the boys pull out their cojones and make bold predictions.
All right. Putting you on the spot, guys. It's time for bold predictions. I'm out of practice, so I have no idea what I'm going to pick here. But I'm going to start with you, Mickey. Give me a bold prediction for the Bengals.
The Bengals, I predict they're going to have an exciting draft. And I also predict that we're probably going to have a few more of these shows.
All right.
So at some point this season. That's bold.
That is very bold. Oh, so okay. So Mickey's saying they're going to have an exciting draft, and this show is going to be background. Okay, possibly. We'll see if Mickey's right. How about you, Scotty? Beam me up, Scotty. Did he leave? Oh, wow. How did I miss that? Okay, well, I throw it, and that's because I had the chat room hovering over the screen. See ya. AC, give me a bold prediction.
I will predict. Oh, he's back. There he is. I will predict that the Bengals will draft a quarterback within the first 2 rounds of this year's draft.
Whoa. First 2?
And I think AJ McCarron will win his arbitration somehow. And I think the Bengals, I think that might be one of the changes they're looking at.
All right. So AC's going for a drafting of a quarterback.
My hope, if I'm going to go on the record, my hope is that it's Sam Darnold.
Oh, Trojan boy out there on the West Coast, the best coast. All right.
I see a lot of Brett Favre in that kid.
All right. I mean,
turnover prone, hell of an arm, pro style quarterback. I know people either love him or hate him, but I see a good future for that kid. But
I think that kid makes incredible throws. Can I tell you my knock on him? and I haven't heard. I mean, I don't follow him as obviously as much as people out there do.
Big games.
Too many fumbles.
Oh.
Yep.
Like it's not the interceptions. Like he's a big time throw quarterback, but man, if you're getting hit, you got to hold on to that ball.
Yeah, he gets loose with it because he's very ad-libby in the pocket, which a lot of times he'll navigate through it and make a hell of a throw, and other times he gets touched once and the ball comes flying out.
Yeah, you got to control that. Won't happen. The guys in the NFL will feast on that.
Yeah, and I think honestly that was more of an issue this year than it was last year, but I think a lot of people saw the regression from last year to this year in certain facets, but I still think there's a lot of clay to mold there. I don't think he's ready to start in the NFL right now, but I think he probably has the highest upside in my opinion. And I am a little biased because he's an SC guy, but I watched a lot of them, and I like what I saw there. But my bold prediction, whether it's him or whoever, I think the Bengals take a quarterback in the draft within the first 2 rounds.
Well, we know if he becomes a Bengal, he'll sit for a year, so it doesn't matter. And believe it or not, the Bengals have a good track record with sitting USC quarterbacks for the first year as a pro. So there's that too. All right, so you heard. I don't know. Did you hear Mickey's bold prediction there, Scott? I couldn't tell when you bounced out.
No, I did, and the battery was dying. I wasn't quick enough to get upstairs to get the.
He's out of practice, folks.
Amateur hour down here.
Mickey said that they were going to have a good draft, and he also predicted that we'd be doing this show a little bit more frequently. No pressure.
Probably, I would agree with both. My bold prediction, it's not because I think it will happen. It's because I want it to happen. First round draft Baker Mayfield. Trade McCarron and Dalton. Use those extra picks to move up, get Mayfield, and take an offensive lineman in the first round as well.
Son of a... You got to be kidding me. You took mine. I say they trade Dalton. That's my bold prediction. I think what's going to happen in Washington is going to be interesting. If they don't sign Kirk Cousins to a long-term deal and he leaves, I think Jay Gruden might make a play for Andy Dalton. And I think the Bengals would be willing to listen because this is a draft that's got a lot of quarterback talent in it. And if they can move up and possibly get a Baker Mayfield, a Sam Darnold, or I don't know about Josh Rosen if he'd be there. There's the kid from Wyoming. God, I hope they don't pick him. But I think that's a realistic chance that Dalton – we might have seen the last of Andy Dalton. If the offer is good enough, I wouldn't be surprised if he is the starting quarterback for the Washington Redskins next fall. Anybody?
I didn't think about that. I didn't think about the Redskins deal.
Because Jay Gruden, when he was drafted, Jay Gruden loved that guy. And that was a big reason why Dalton was in town, is because Jay Gruden was the offensive coordinator that year, loved him. And when he played under Gruden, you could argue that was the best years of his career. I mean, I know Hugh did well with him as well, but under Gruden, Dalton was fantastic. I think he had no turnovers in the red zone he had some crazy stretch where he kept the ball, kept the Bengals with the ball in the red zone. So I just have a feeling if Cousins moves on, why not, if you're the Redskins, go get a guy that you know can play? And that's my bold prediction. Scotty, what do you think?
This before, I think Andy Dalton and Kirk Cousins are essentially the same guy. I think they're both, good quarterbacks, above average. I think you can win with both of them. I actually don't disagree with you, Nick. I actually do think that's a viable option. If I'm the Bengals, if I'm running a franchise, I take the approach that everyone is available, for the right price. If you want to give me a first round pick for Andy Dalton, absolutely, I'm listening. I don't think the Bengals will take that approach, but I like your idea, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, what did they get for Dalton or for Palmer? Didn't they get 2 first rounders? I don't think they'll get 2 first rounders for Dalton, but Mickey, what do you think? You think it's a viable option if that were to happen? Would you make that move if you're the Bengals?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I'd go Cousins. I mean, honestly, if you were truly
No, I don't think the Bengals would take Cousins. I'm just saying, if Cousins moves on, right?
so, then the Bengals draft a quarterback, or do they? I mean, we always talk about it's either Dalton or McCarron. What about my man Driscoll?
Well, I mean, I don't know enough.
Does right, but
Right.
in the preseason he looked really good, and then I mean, not good enough like he's gonna, but he's a different type of quarterback. We keep talking about these quarterbacks that are similar to Dalton. I mean, like Scott said, Cousins and Dalton are the same. I think McCarron's the same boat. I don't know. Like I think you win with Dalton. I think that's not a problem you need to fix. I think there's bigger problems. So that's what I think. I think they go line. You can't miss on it though.
Yeah, I just think if you're going to move away from Dalton, it's got to be a guy that I think it can't be a Cousins, it can't be a McCarron, it can't be a same guy. I mean, if you're going to move away from that, you got to get someone that's a different quarterback, a bigger arm, taller, whatever, maybe more of a scrambling dual threat guy, whatever the case is. I mean, if you're not enamored with Dalton at this point and you're ready to move on from him, I don't think moving on to a Dalton clone is going to be the answer for you. Now, again, as we've said on this show, Dalton could be the answer. Resupply him with talent around him, and that's fine. But if this team is going to move on from Dalton, it's got to be a kind of a different direction, I think. I mean, otherwise you're kind of getting more of the same, I think.
Yeah. So those were our bold predictions, which I forgot to do this.
Cojones.
Yeah, that was another soundbite I found today. I just wanted a reason to play. I'll do that again, AC, so everybody can see that. I just wanted an excuse to play some of these audio bits. Here's another one. Who knows where John from Kentucky is? Miss hearing that guy. Hearing from that guy. That guy was hardcore Bengals and our show for that matter. That guy called in all the time. It was always fun hearing John. We don't have Chris from Dayton. I was really looking forward to him eating a boot. That didn't happen. He wasn't a man of his word. What else am I missing?
Out, but
No, not doing it.
final thoughts.
Oh, well,
Not doing
yeah.
what?
I thought you were going to hint towards something else.
No, let me see. Can I see if this works? Can I see if this works next?
Oh, no. Please don't.
No, not that.
Okay.
I'm playing from my phone. I don't know if you can see this, Nick.
Okay.
Probably not.
The
Dates on there?
Yeah, I see that. That's from, I believe that might have been our 100th episode.
No, this was the Taste the NFL, but I'm going to try to play it into the mic.
Okay.
Shout out to Who Day Weekly. Sure. Yeah, if you guys want to keep up on all your Bengals news, Who Day Weekly is where to check it out. Oh, thanks, man.
And that was before the NFL said, nah, baby, nah. And shut us down for that name. Yeah, that was good. I think that might have been the second year of the Taste.
So,
yeah,
2012
Lap,
right?
would have been. Yeah, that was Lapham.
I can't believe I still have all those on my phone.
Do you have the same phone since then?
No, but like when you transfer everything,
yeah.
like, it's all still there.
Wow. Yeah, that was a good. That was fun. That first 100th episode, I think you were down there, and I remember you sending me these interviews, like, "Hey, you gotta edit these. I'm like, "Oh my God, you got this guy! Oh my God, you got this guy!"
The only person that snubbed me was Gino.
Yeah, and I think didn't Katie Blackburn snub you too? Did you try to get her? Oh, you took a picture, I think, with her.
Yeah, she's the one that set up, and I took a picture with Mike Brown. I got to talk to Hugh, Marvin Lewis, AJ, Giovanni, Tyler Eifert, Whitworth. I know there was more too. Oh, Kirkpatrick.
Giovanni Bernard stood me up. He wanted nothing to do with it.
Oh, he was one of the nicest guys when we did it.
Yeah, he wanted nothing to do with it.
I remember.
Did you have the beard?
I did not. I did not have the beard at that time. If I had the beard, he probably would have just felt threatened.
Just respect, really.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think the first person we interviewed was Ben Jarvis Green Ellis.
Disney World, by the way.
Really? The law firm?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Last year.
See one, Nick?
That was for Gillette.
Gillette, that's right.
And yeah, they were promoting some sort of like a duo because we ended up getting him and Giovanni on the show because of that. And
Reggie.
We did. That's right.
And he talked about the soup and his scene in Hard Knocks where he tore his Achilles. That was good.
Reggie Kelly. Yep. Oh my
gosh. That was a great one.
Do you remember that? How nervous we were for that Anthony Munoz interview? Oh my!
He was so good.
That was before we went live with the show. That was back in the recorded phase of Who Day Weekly at the time. Yeah, that was crazy. And I just remember, before we called him, like I could hear the nerves through my headphones from Tim. Like he was wigging out.
Yeah, but that was awesome.
That was fun. I'm glad you still have those audio clips there. I'm sure they're somewhere on my computer. Yeah.
I mean, I love talking to Hobson. That guy will talk forever.
And I thought about it. I thought about it, emailing him and say, hey, we're doing this reunion show. Maybe we'll save that for the next one. Maybe before the season.
I think Moon. That was pretty.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
That was cool. Well, I believe, now that I've crushed this plate of tots, I think we should begin to wrap things up because, believe it or not, we've been going for an hour and a half, and that hour and a half actually kind of flew. I can't believe it's been 95 minutes of doing this bad boy. It feels like old times, like we didn't skip a beat, guys.
This is fun.
It's like riding a bike, Nick.
No. Well, not that I do that anymore. I mean, if you see this region does not help with the bike riding.
Yeah, you didn't even refer to the pitch once, so that was impressive.
To the what? Oh no, that's for a different audience, Scotty. Although I will say this, my guys over at Cincinnati Soccer Talk were like, you got to mention the show tonight. Cincinnati Soccer Talk. Yeah, we do quite a bit actually. The club.
Did you get Mitch?
We had Mitch on the show. Mitch
before or after that insane game?
We had him on in the first season, so we didn't have him on. It was before that crazy game, yeah. But it was, yeah. The club has been really supportive of that show and getting the players, the head coach. We just had the head coach on last week. We had Jeff Birding's probably been on our show 7 or 8 times. Can you imagine Mike Brown ever being on our show? That would never ever happen. We couldn't get any.
Tim, have you offered it to him? He would.
Do you know how many times? Do you know how many times I emailed the Bengals to say, "Hey, can we interview so and so? Hey, can we get anybody?" And we weren't traditional media, so they totally disregarded us.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, Nick, I think you gotta. I don't think you're giving him a fair shake here. You haven't asked.
Well, maybe we'll just have to work on that. I guess.
He loves tater tots.
Oh yeah. Oh, is that what?
Probably because they're cheap.
All right.
Coming on, Scott.
Yeah, I just blew that. Sorry, guys.
All right. It's been a lot of fun.
You know what? I'll take one for the team. I will voluntarily sit out that show so Mike will come on.
Mike Brown doesn't even know what a podcast is. There's no way. Anyway, it's been a lot of fun. I really did miss you guys.
What channel is it on my radio dial?
That sounds like my mom. Anyway.
$10 says he doesn't have wireless in his office.
He has a rotary phone.
Still using the free AOL trials, the AOL disc trials, free 80 hours of internet.
He wants a laptop that has a wire hanging from it. That's his Ethernet cable.
He used his preferred search engine is Lycos.
Oh my gosh, that was funny.
On his internet service.
Well, Anthony and I will sit out that interview while you and Mickey talk to him.
Oh, you guys are the best. It's been a lot of fun. Yeah.
Fantastic job.
Anyway, as we begin to wrap things up here on this reunion show, we would always end our shows with our final thoughts. So I'll start with you, AC. Give us your final thoughts as we wrap up.
I don't want to be too much of a downer on this one, and I don't want to be a little bit self-promoting, but for those who have followed my social media or are friends with me on Facebook or what have you, some of you may know that I lost my sister in a really crazy way last October. Very sudden and very, very sad. I don't want to go into too many details about it, but with that, we've tried to come up with something positive as a family and with our friends, and we're giving out some scholarships and we're raising money through a GoFundMe account. There's a Facebook page. It's called the Lisa Kazenza Memorial Scholarship Fund. There's a website, lisakazenzafund.com. It's for either high school students or adult students looking to come back and finish their bachelor's degree. In just a few short months, we've already raised close to $18,000, which is pretty cool. And so we're going to try and make this an annual thing. We're not a family that likes to ask people for money, but if you feel like donating to a good cause, obviously tax deductible, and there's going to be some very, very cool kids and or adults that will be worthy of this money. Please either spread the word or feel free to donate or what have you. We appreciate it. This isn't stuff that's going to go into our family's pocket for any kind of expenses or anything like that. It's all going to go towards scholarships. And I know you guys have reached out and others have reached out, and it's been pretty difficult, as you can imagine, but it's with family and friends like you guys and others who have donated that's made this a little bit easier. So appreciate the reach outs and any help you want to give. Cool. If not, no worries. I just thought I'd put it out there. Don't want to be a downer, but just thought I'd make that my final thought, I guess.
And I know your sister, she was a Bengals fan too, right?
She actually came with us a couple times out to Cincinnati for a couple of games out in 2004 and 2005. We went in 2004. It was the Ravens game towards the beginning of the year. They lost that game. And then in 2005, it was towards the beginning of that year when they played, if you remember that year, they played the Minnesota Vikings, and they absolutely trounced them.
5 turnovers.
And
5 picks in that game.
Yep.
Dang,
and so she was with us for both those games out there, and she came to a couple of San Diego Charger games with us as well. So when the Bengals played the Chargers in San Diego, so she was a big Bengals fan.
Well, I know she's watching down on us and probably enjoying this show tonight, because I'd imagine she tuned in quite a bit to hear your Bengal analysis too.
She did.
Well, I'm glad you brought it up, AC. I wasn't going to mention it, but I'm glad that you did, and I know it was crazy even just seeing that. I'm still shocked as well when I think about it. So, but I'm glad we had a chance to hang out, and if you can go to lisakasenzafund.org, that's the correct address, right?
Information about the scholarship, about who she was, a little bit about who she was. Students can apply online there, right on the website, and then you can also donate from the website too. So appreciate it.
Good stuff, AC. It was good hanging out with you again tonight.
It's great seeing you guys, and great talking with you. I know, like I said earlier, we've been chatting a little bit on social media, but it's always good to get out there. And then once I come out that way again, I'd love to, meet up with you guys, or if you're ever out this way, hit me up.
Yeah, let us know, man. If you're coming to Ohio, I'm going to make a trip down for sure. For sure. Final thoughts, Scott Bantel. Scotty B, beam me up, man.
Anthony, good to hear the family's doing well. Nick, I think I think the people have spoken tonight. I'm pretty sure that coming back on a more regular basis, at least during the season, if nothing else, just for the mental stability of myself, yourself, Mickey, and AC and the fans. If nothing else, I mean, it's no coincidence that we haven't made the playoffs since we stopped the show. I'm pretty sure it has to do with. I'm pretty sure Marvin used to listen and get some tips from us, and without our, he's lost.
Well, I doubt that's the case.
It's hard to disprove that.
It is a coincidence, or maybe it's not a coincidence that the Bengals have struggled since we have shut down the show. But who knows? This was a lot of fun tonight. But so we'll see. We'll leave it at that. It was really good to see you again, Scott, and hang out. It's been I was telling my wife, like, man, I haven't talked to these guys like in like 2 years. And I know we've tweeted here and there, but like this is like the first time we've talked. Like,
Excited today, Nick. I'm not gonna lie. It's like a kid in a candy store.
well, good. I was excited too, and it was good hanging out.
No doubt.
Last but not least, the one who's been along this journey the longest out of the well, I guess out of the two of you, other than me, the one and only Mickey Metzer. Final thoughts, buddy.
I didn't know what to think about tonight, and this was actually more fun than I thought it would be. Like, I didn't think it was going to be a drag, but this was pretty good. And I mean, it's weird. Like, as we're talking, and I'm looking at my phone at those old clips and how long it goes back. Like, I remember us taking the bus down to Georgetown.
Oh
like,
my gosh!
Like, just things that happen in that time span, and it's crazy how life gets there. But this was pretty fun, and I know you're getting a ton of pressure from everyone, but if we decide to do this a few times or whatever, I think it'd be cool. I mean, I know that your soccer thing's going, and I told AC I'd be a guest on his podcast at some point. It never happened, but it was really good to get back in touch with you guys. And it would have been cool if Tim could have popped in, or if Reed or Bader would have popped in, like some of the people that were around way back. But this, I don't know. It was nice. It was nice to talk Bengals with you guys in a time when we're not really talking Bengals at all. So it was cool. Before we leave, though.
Oh no.
No. I'm just curious, like, because we always do something that is like immediately measurable. I think everyone should do their Super Bowl pick.
Oh, that's a good call. All right, so who do you got, Mick?
I'm gonna make the smart pick and pick the Pats. I was really rooting for the Vikings, not because of any reason except I thought it would be cool to see the first team play the Super Bowl in their home stadium.
Sure,
but I think it's the Pats' game to lose.
Yeah, that's hard to look past those guys. What about you, Scott? Who you picking?
Yeah, I'm Doug Peterson versus Bill Belichick, Nick Foles versus Tom Brady. I have a very tough time picking anyone but the Pats, so I agree. I think the Pats will join the Steelers with the 6th ring.
AC?
I really want to pick Philadelphia, but I just can't. I can't. For all the reasons you guys mentioned. It's just, anytime you think the Patriots are against the ropes, I mean, the Jags had them, the Falcons had them last year in the Super Bowl. You can't. I mean, until someone proves otherwise, you got to go with them.
Here's an interesting stat that I saw on Twitter the other day, in regards to the Patriots, and maybe the Bengals looking up to the Steelers is the wrong model. I think really they should be looking further east and looking at the model that New England has been incorporating. I don't know. They've only been successful the last 16, 17 years. I mean, you would think that would be who you would want to model yourself after. But with this game coming up next, not this Sunday, but next Sunday, Tom Brady and Bill Belichick will have coached or played in. Brady, I think this will be his. I can't remember which started, but I know it's 15% of the Super Bowls he has started 15% of the Super Bowls ever played, Tom Brady has started in. Can you believe that? That is ridiculous.
I heard an incredible stat. Tom Brady has started 16 seasons. They didn't count the season that he hurt his knee, because I think he only played like one game. Just out of
Not
16 seasons. Yeah, out of 16 seasons, he's played in the Super Bowl 8 of them, so 50%. He's been in the AFC Championship 12 of his 16 seasons. Unbelievable.
And to think Belichick was a coach of the Browns. Yeah, I got to go with the Pats as well. Just for what you said, Scott. I mean, you think Doug Peterson and Nick Foles can outsmart and outwit Bill Belichick? I don't see it happening. But I'll be rooting for the Eagles. Don't get me wrong, but I just don't see the Patriots losing. That's my take. So, Mickey, good stuff as always. Appreciate it was good hanging out, buddy.
Cool.
My final thoughts. I was telling the guys earlier today, or earlier before the show started, that I was kind of nervous about doing this show because it had been a while. I wasn't sure how it would go because we hadn't talked with one another. Back when we were doing the show, we had a rhythm. We knew when we were done talking. I was wondering how that was going to all. Honestly, it was seamless tonight. Like I would have thought we just did an episode last week, to be fair. So, but I was super nervous because I haven't watched the Bengals, and I was kind of worried that I might have showed, and people would have been like, "Nick, you're not a fan," and because obviously my head is elsewhere with the soccer stuff I've got going on, and honestly, I had a lot of fun doing it tonight. I want to do more of these. I don't know if I can commit to every week. Much like you guys, you've got lives too. You're busy with your stuff. I'm coaching 2 soccer teams. I've got 2 kids playing soccer. I'm coaching basketball now. But the good news is I don't work third shift anymore. That is amazing in itself. So 7 to 3 a.m. or 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. That's how it should be done. And that's helped a lot. So anyway, that's enough about me. I don't feel comfortable talking about myself anymore. All right. It's been fun. Guys, I really appreciate you taking some time on this Thursday night to be with me. For everybody watching us live in the YouTube chat, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for all the tweets. Keep sending them to us. If you want us to keep doing the show, let us know. Obviously, we think we're going to get a lot of those tweets, people wanting us to stick around. Who knows? Maybe we'll fire it back up. We'll see. Maybe. Mickey's getting all pumped. All right. I think it's time we wrap it up. For Anthony Cosenza, AC out on the West Coast, Scotty B, beam me up, and Mickey Mentzer, Who Dey fans. I'm Subs. We'll see y'all later. Who Dey!